That's so funny. The cicadas are still trancing in the backyard. It's September 29th. It's Michaelmas. The cicadas are still going, but the Michaelmas daisies are there. They're there. Some nice sort of lilac colored ones. But there's a bird that made a nest right outside the window over here, so I could hear it. I could hear it twittering, and then the garbage truck in the alley. So this is this is our lives, right? But we can notice so many things, right? We're right in the middle of this transition. I know you feel it. It's the arrival of autumn. It always wakes us up. It usually signifies a test, whether we're conscious of it or not, because with the precession of the equinoxes, now in our time, at the autumnal equinox, the sun has moved from the constellation of Libra, right, the sign of the scales, where the human being is indeed weighed on that stern measure, to the sign of the Virgo, right, the Virgin, who holds the harvest, who helps us separate the wheat from the chaff. And as we join her in the harvest, we have to be honest. We have to ask ourselves, can I, as a human being, stand in wholeness? Because, that's what the Virgin represents. It's purity, it's wholeness. Will my spiritual harvest sustain me? Will my inner strength hold up when the support of nature is withdrawn? And our angel says, hold on, little sister, have faith, little brother, because we can see, we can witness in the skies the power of Michael behind the streams of shooting stars. We've had some comets lately, right? But the meteor showers of late August, September, you feel it strengthening your blood. Yeah, this cosmic iron is giving us the strength to wage war on anxiety, on fear, on hate, creating an inner heat, an inner process that penetrates our earthly thoughts with world thoughts, that our hearts may begin to have thoughts. And that's this heart thinking. So this, to me, this is the modern antidote to the dragon, heart thinking, which it gives us the ability to transform into wholeness, that our will can learn to open the window that lets in the spiritual sun, right? The physical sun starts to wane now. We have to learn to enter in with consciousness this spiritual sun, the source of the resurrection forces, which enable the human intelligence to unite again with the cosmic intelligence. Now, I wrote down a quote from Steiner. It has to do with fire, right? A spiritual fire. So I think I will call in the fire spirits to help, sanctify this cyberspace. Yeah, it's a good time. All right. So I wrote it down. I thought, sometimes it's nice if you like a quote or something to write it out in your own handwriting. So he says, Michael awakes a spiritual fire. It's up here. You can see it. All right, it's there. We have a candle here. The fire presence is here. So Michael awakens a spiritual fire in such a way that the human soul is able to experience inspiration, not through a mystic twilight, but from a thought-illuminated clarity of soul. Thoughts that strive to grasp the spiritual in our time must proceed from hearts that beat for Michael as the fiery prince of world thoughts. Don't you love that? This picture. Hearts beating for Michael as the fiery prince of world thoughts. Wow, we got some good backup here, folks. Let's take advantage of this. I mean, this quote from, it was from the Michael mystery. It inspired me so much. And I just, I feel like these words live, there's an essence there for our modern initiation. If spiritual science is allowed to live in us and extend its transforming influence into our heart space, what enters us as thoughts is then changed into the substance of light, into the purest light of thought. And in the living enthusiasm of the heart, this light of thought, then rays out from our hearts into the macrocosm as the light of the redeemed intelligence of Michael. It's an inner alchemy. So as this light of redeemed intelligence, we can enliven our human thought. And this can be reunited with the world thought of the gods. So it's that lemniscate. It's this give and take, and we are called to have a co-creation right now. And we can see this talked about in the third panel of the Foundation Stone meditation. But in heart thinking, really, to me, this is the essence of Michaelmas. This festival of enlightenment has this heart component. And we can learn to experience an unfolding of our inner initiative and a free, strong, courageous will that opposes our love of ease, right? There's that part of us. So that's what I think we mean by courage too, to like slay those bad habits of our own, right? Where that the dragon lives in us. So yeah, I mean, it's easy this time of year. We want to get cozy on the couch. We want to snuggle up with the dragon. Yeah, flipping through the channels, fighting over the remote. Yeah, it's the counterbalance to this. Yeah. Since ancient times, the full name for September 29th is the feast day of Saint Michael and all the heavenly hosts. So we got a whole crew going on here, right? And the old legend always prefaces this, the famous story that we always hear about with the dragon, the battle with the dragon, with instead an enumeration of the 9 angelic realms. So this gives us a cosmic view, and it's revealed in our soul. It takes us all the way. We can sit at the thrones. Yeah. So Michael, we can have this picture standing before us as the prince and herald of all the hierarchies. We may look to the angelic choirs, that we may look to our future selves, that we may think what it is to be truly human, here and now and step by step, to courageously build our own strong and steady rung on the ladder of evolution. It's our job, right? To strive to complete this never-ending story with the new Michaelic mysteries put forth by Rudolf Steiner, a true emissary of Michael, right? Teaching us to count ourselves as the 10th hierarchy. So Michael, silently bidding us, right? In the Christian community service, we hear of how the warding off gesture becomes a beckoning. can we respond to that? This bidding, this, to do as Jacob did, right? We can see this ascending and descending ladder, which we're part of. And this is, again, what we could call an openness to the above. Yeah, this reverse ritual, this rising in our thinking to meet the spiritual beings. We can enter into a conversation between heaven and earth, which is conducted in the interweaving of these living beings. Certain times of the year, we have more of a trajectory toward that, and we can take advantage of it. But it's always there. And interesting to just picture this being, Michael, as this genius, this leader of humanity through all the many transformations of our consciousness. Spiritual science teaches us to view this being as a sort of a guardian of cosmic intelligence. And what does that even mean? Right? He's governing the cosmic thoughts of the hierarchies, which formed the plan of the universe before the beginning of time. Right? So it's happening in this capacity as a sun being. And he is the closest servant and trailblazer of the Christ, called the Logos in the Gospel of John, right? Which indicates this sphere of origin where thinking and speech, the speaking of God, are still one. You see, like, yeah. The thought and the speech are one. Spiritual science gives this picture of the spirit body of the Christ being as this creative, primal thought of God. Thoughts that we can call cosmic intelligence. And Michael, as guardian of this, is the herald, the helper, the bearer of Christ, the Christ being to us. It's part of that, we have that place on the ladder to grab onto. We have a step up with this energy that's working with us. So, through the eyes of this cosmic perspective, we can see on every level of evolution. And, the right things that are accomplished have to come through this kind of transformation. So, yeah, we can try to understand what it is to have a relationship with a cosmic being, right? We can sort of learn their characteristics or the energies that they give us, and then we can, attune our thoughts in that way, right? So I always think it's interesting to look at the etymology of things and what is the meaning of this name Michael, right? It's beautiful. It's a question. It's actually a question. It means who is like God? Michael, who is like God? In our time, it's this countenance of Christ. We could do a whole evolutionary history about Michael, Marduk, right? I mean, different aspects. Everything's moving, everything's changing. Yeah, we have to prepare so that we also can become this countenance. So this goal, it will be attained when the sunlight of divine thought finds direct entry into human souls. When humanity's no longer a shadow darkened by head thinking alone. We're all participants. We're all, making it happen. And the being of anthroposophy will truly show herself when the Michaelic impulse has united itself in our work, in our thinking on this earth. And we can see a connection with the deeds that have happened through people, great initiates like Rudolf Steiner, during the Christmas conference. And the greatest task of every anthroposophist today is to take up Michael thought. Well, how do we do that, right? Well, this Michael thought is revealed particularly in Steiner's leading thoughts, right? And in the Karma lectures. And we can also work with it powerfully in the cosmic human rhythms of the foundation stone meditation. And we could find it in its highest embodiment, I think, in the first class. But yeah, we have to see this being's evolution as moving from archangel to archai, time spirit, concerned with deeds of consciousness. His language is one of closed lips, right? We're not, we have to really prove ourselves worthy. His concern is the will of thinking, I think. and this impulse, the union of the Grail and Arthur streams, that's what this is about as well. Right? This bringing together the two streams that work under Michael in different ways. The Aristotelians, the Platonists, you can call them. We have to work together. Steiner called this the Michael prophecy, actually. And that's, a good reason to bring that up on Michaelmas, right? This prophecy of this appreciating the gifts and interweaving them. So a union of some sort, really. I like to think of it as a mystic marriage, It has to occur within each of us, for one thing. And we play a decisive role in the great battle of Michael with our current dragon. Well, yeah, what does this battle look like? Well, yeah, it's pretty obviously all around us and seems to be more and more evident. But humanity, there's this taking in of nature in three ways, right? So we can eat something, we can breathe it in through the air, we can take things in through our senses, right? So the dragon can enter into our existence through what we take into ourselves in these three ways, for instance. So in other words, our unconscious sense impressions, if they're unconscious, they become food for the dragon. It's really as simple as that. If we're just doing something and we're not thinking, we're feeding the dragon. This being is super sensibly, a constant developer of his own selfish purposes, but he has to work in us. So now we are in constant battle within ourselves. Of course, we take it out on each other and all of that. But the dragon in us requires our sense experiences to nourish him. He avidly eats up what enters us. That's why these screens can be so perilous and so unhealthy for us. But if we try to work with them with consciousness and claim the space for Christ, then we're good. That's part of our work. That's part of our work. And that's another thing we can add in here. Always mystery of evil, right? So unless we start to think of our sense perceptions differently, we're feeding the dragon. So here's another really good quote from Manifestations of Karma. Steiner says, there is one power only before which Lucifer retreats, namely morality. This is something that burns him like the most terrible fire. Interesting. So morality is the antidote for Lucifer. Okay. He goes on. And there is by no other means by which to counter Ahriman than the power of judgment and discernment schooled by spiritual science. With this, he is stricken with panic, for this is entirely unknown to him, and he has an intense fear of it. So if we're using discernment, we drive Ahriman away. Morality counteracts Lucifer. Discernment in our thinking. Ahriman's afraid of it. Okay? I mean, that's a little recipe right there for you folks. Try it out. I want to hear. We can do this. Like when you start to feel like an immoral thought inside of you, know it's Lucifer working in you, right? Right? If you find yourself judging or, falling into antipathy, sympathy, how do you come into that middle place? That's really what it's all about. Right? The scales. So everything in nature asks that the magic, right? The magic, the life force, whatever you want to call it, held imprisoned within, for instance, the plants that are withering right now or being harvested. There's a being there. And when we think of it as a living being, it can become itself in a way, and that helps to free it from the enchantment of nature, right? Because we know that from death comes life. So this outward picture is really not the whole picture. We're seeing one side of the tree, as we would say. We're seeing one aspect of the seasons. So if we're going to conquer the dragon, we have to see and think and experience life with wonder, with awe, with reverence. We have to live an ethical, moral life. I mean, that's words, right? I know that's like I'm trying to etch it into my everything. We have to be schooled in discernment. Yeah, we have to apply this heart thinking. How does it feel? So, yeah, I mean, we can talk about all the great help that we get. I mean, I think most people know it. I mean, you might know something, but you have to apply it. You have to you don't necessarily have to see the meteor showers. You don't have to necessarily go out and see them, but you can imagine them, and then you're participating in it, right? But it's so okay. So here's another quote. I'm just gonna do it because I feel like it. Four Seasons and the Archangels. It's such a good one, right? So here he's talking about the. All right, here it is. A person who looks out into space and sees the shooting stars may say to himself, with reverence for the gods, what is happening in the great expanse of space has its minute counterpart continuously in myself. I didn't say it very nice, but what he sees out there, he can feel in himself, right? In ourselves. Out there are shooting stars, while in every one of my blood corpuscles, iron is taking form. I mean, just take a minute and picture that. I mean, we can participate in our unconscious workings because that's where the spiritual beings are working. But if we put our thoughts there, I mean, people, miraculous cures, I don't even, so much there, right? Yeah. We have this iron there. We see it in the shooting stars. We have it in our blood. He says, my life is full of shooting stars, minute shooting stars. So yeah, another very poetic picture for us to tune into. And this process, it really is, it's continuous. But it's especially important at the end of summer, right? Because the sulfur processes of the dragon are at their peak. They have a purpose. They ripened everything, right? And we also are part of that. Somehow we get ripened. We start to shine. Like Steiner uses the term glowworm, right? That we become shining beings like glowworms saturated with sulfur. I mean, like the fireflies and such. Just like, but it changes when autumn approaches. There's a counter force that comes in from the cosmos to bring a balance, right? So we can picture that as millions of tiny meteors scintillating inwardly in our blood. Let's reclaim our blood, people. Yeah. I mean, let's spiritualize it. This is the connection between the inner self and the universe. So while the sulfur rises in the, it's this great picture, like bluish, yellow clouds from the lower part of the human being, right? So like, this is us, towards the head. And then the iron forming process, the rays are coming out from our head and pouring like a stream of meteors into the life of our blood. So this is a picture of the human being at Michaelmas. We have this meeting of these streams right now. Yeah, I mean, it can feel a little uncomfortable, I think, for me. I mean, I love the season. I love the shift of the seasons, but it can be very uncomfortable. What I'm trying to say is we have to learn to make conscious use of these meteoric forces in our blood, right? We can, power of a magnet. What is that all about? And with effort, we begin to see something of the wisdom behind the weaving will in creation. It's like being awake to the patterns, and that we're part of the pattern. That we're creating the pattern. The cicadas, they go on and off. But we're not going to be able to see. The outward stuff is those clues will kind of be gone. The rose is gonna, wither. So how can we see the will forces in ourselves at that time? Can anyone think of a good example of how we can forge that? How can we work with that? How can we I don't know, I'm always thinking about the calendar of the soul, right? Yeah. So when we're doing this kind of looking at our sense perceptions with a spiritual eye, we're really penetrating behind the veil of the form, right? It's just a veil. And that's where we're going to be able to meet the forces that are coloring it, right? These are the world thoughts of the cosmos. And so we're trying to fill and ourselves with that, but also to add our human thoughts to that, right? So there's this interweaving, and how humanity has to turn from the outer to the inner, because the sense world dims, and the super sensible world can now dawn within the human soul. So we have to gather the courage of this interaction to cross the threshold of autumn toward the realm of the hierarchies. That's where we're leading to, the holy nights. This replaces for us this outer world of the natural kingdoms. And this consciousness, with it, we can really become aware of the forces of growth and becoming, of decline and decay in the world, right? We can do the exercises that are given in How to Know Higher Worlds by watching something you've watched it grow. We've taken the fruit, right? We've been with the flower. Now it's withering and dying. Everything is streaming out from it. And then it's getting pulled back down to the roots. So, yeah, this picture of the fight with the dragon is preparing us for an experience that where we can really just part those veils and look into the source of the permeating that permeates the aura of the earth right now. Be awake to that. It's a Michaelic strength, and it's meant to enter us, to prepare us for this continuous coming of the Christ in the ether world. This coming now works in the earth, which is the body. The sun shines now from the earth. But we have to be part of that. And, even if we only think these thoughts tentatively, if it's just a sort of a dull picture, we can develop, we can continue to build these pictures in ourselves, in our thinking, and shine, let them shine with the essence of what is behind this new Michael festival, this evolving festival of enlightenment. So yeah, the images that we most often see that outpicture the essence of this time of year, right? They all point to this spiritual battle. It doesn't just take place once. It's a continual event. We know this. We have to wake up and be every day. It's within us. But we also, see it moving we see the oppositions, conjunctions, whatever the dance of the stars are. We see it, on the earth as well. This Michael image really has come to depend on our goodwill. There's a change now where we have to be the one to step forward and take up the battle with Michael. That these powers have to be taken hold of, filled with this gamut that we talk about, right? It's a tool to unravel these spirit powers. So in the spirit realms, Michael's battle with the dragon, it's already concluded. It's victorious. That part, yeah, that's good. But the battle here, it's here on earth, right? And we have to complete it. So it doesn't always have to be a gesture of battle. There is this beckoning quality. And so we have to begin to feel this transformation. And it's reflected in this gesture. And the hand that was, stretched out aggressively in a threatening manner, right? This downward gesture against these enemy forces. It just changed in our time. Is now a beckoning. So as guardian of the cosmic intelligence, Michael counts on us to become free human beings, that we can return the gesture in kind. Because he needs, our hands, our heads and our hearts. Yeah. So, yeah, I think I kind of went all over the place with this here, but I really feel like, just acknowledging this season is always important. May it enkindle in us renewed hope and unshakable faith, right? We got to keep the faith, folks. We got to keep the faith. We got the strength, and we are endowed. We are endowed with the spiritual will of the Sophia Michael in the name of the Christ. And we can stand fast in freedom to shore up the practical reality that spiritual science offers as a worldview. So we can keep this view and we can share it in the ethers.